So this is part one of how to write a college level introduction paragraph in a Comp 2 class. We have an essay that's supposed to be an authorial analysis essay and a character analysis. And we are talking about what's called the internal and external dimensions of a person's identity and how that influences what they say and how they say it. Now, the what they say would be considered the character analysis. The how they say it would be considered their authorial voice. And so we'll talk about the distinction between those two, but we talked about already, I wrote on the board, the introduction should be thought about and written in 3 different phases. We're starting, however, with understanding how to write a thesis statement. That's where we're going to start with. Once we understand that the thesis statement is the main idea, and we are not going to be introducing the thesis statement at the beginning of the introduction. It's going to be the last sentence of the introduction, even though we're starting with the thesis statement. What I mean by starting with it, we need to develop that first, and once we develop the thesis statement first, then we can figure out how to do a strategy that gets us into this thesis statement. And I'll talk about sections 1 and 2 after I focus on section 3 in part 2. I'll focus on sections 1 and 2 in part 2. All right, so here we go. This essay topic, when you're writing a thesis statement, should start with the topic of your essay, whatever that is. And the topic of this essay is the internal and external dimensions of a person's identity. The stance that we're doing is we're going to talk about the impact of the internal and external factors, or we are going to, in some way or another, parallel or show the relevance of the internal and external factors to what we call our author's voice based on their biography and also their cultural context, but also we're going to focus on the characters and the content. So this is authorial voice, because this is an authorial analysis, and then we're also going to focus on what they wrote about, and that would include the characters of the story. Once you can identify what your professor is asking you to do, then you can take all of that and then you can put it into one sentence. An example of taking all of this and putting it into one sentence would look like this. And you don't have to go in the order that I'm doing it in, but I'm going to keep it right in this order where it's internal. And then I'm going to use a word that's parallel to impact, and then I'll get into the last part. So I'm going to say the internal, and I'm going to just do this shorthand, the internal and external factors of one's identity is evident in William Faulkner's story. And then I can put the title here, if I haven't already done it, here in section 2. Or I can put the title somewhere in my body paragraphs. I'm just going to say in William Faulkner's story and in Kate Chopin's story. And then I'm going to go, and these factors influence their authorial voice, including what transpires in their stories. Once you have your thesis statement, which is really the most complex, I think, sentence and the most developed sentence of your entire essay, then you can get into phase 2. This is an example thesis statement, but it doesn't have to even be this complex. It can be something as simple as a person's authorial voice can be seen in their writing, which is based on their internal and external factors. That's example number 2 for how you would do your thesis statement. And one final example for how a person can do their thesis statement, maybe they'll start with their stance and they'll say, everything a person says impacts what they say and how they say it, which are elements of a person's internal and external factors. Again, that's 3 different examples of how to do a thesis statement. Once you develop that, then you can get to part 2, which I'll explain in another video.